Last month, a coaching event in Phoenix, I was at the bar afterwards, and a coach I'd just met told me proudly he was publishing his book the following week. I asked how the writing process had gone, and he grinned. I just had ChatGPT write the whole thing. It took me a weekend. I didn't say what I was thinking. I just nodded, because the weekend he thought he saved is about to cost him the entire asset that he was trying to build. Today, I'm going to show you why letting AI write your book quietly destroys it and what the right path actually looks like in 2026. Let's start here. On March 2nd of this year, the United States Supreme Court declined to hear a case called Thaler versus Perlmutter. No comment, no opinion, just a docket entry. And with that single denial, the question of whether AI can author a copyrightable book in the United States was settled. The answer is no. The U.S. Copyright Office had already ruled under American law, copyright requires human authorship. Prompts don't count. Even iterative, detailed, carefully refined prompts don't count. If an AI wrote the book is in the public domain. And on Amazon, there's now a checkbox you have to check before you publish. The exact wording, this title contains AI-generated content. That label appears on the listing of your authority book. Now, here's the part most coaches haven't connected yet. The choice isn't between writing the book yourself or having AI write it. There's a third path. It's been around for centuries. Almost nobody talks about it anymore, and it's the only path that gives you the asset you were actually trying to build. So what does this mean for you? If you're a coach planning to publish a book in the next 12 months, here's what most people in your position don't realize. An AI-written book looks like an authority asset. It has a cover, has chapters, it sits on Amazon next to every other book in your category. But under US law, you don't own it. Anyone can take it, repackage it, and republish it under their own name. There's no infringement to claim because there's nothing to infringe. What's happening here has a name. I call it the IP mirage. The asset you can see, the asset you can hold in your hand, the asset you can't actually defend. I want to tell you about a coach I'll call Marcus. Business coach, 7 years of experience, based in Austin, works mostly with SaaS founders. By every measure that mattered to him, his book launch went smoothly. And by every measure that actually counted, it didn't. So keep that in mind. And let's look at this framework. I call it authorship versus generation. These are two completely different processes producing two completely different assets. And almost every coach considering a book in 2026 is choosing between them without realizing what they're choosing. There are three differences that matter. The first difference is speed. AI generation is faster than writing the book yourself. That part is absolutely true. But it's also slower than the third path, which is extraction. And I'll get to that in a moment. So if speed is the only reason you're considering AI, you've been comparing the wrong two options. The second difference is IP. Under the law, generation can't be copyrighted. Authorship can. That's not opinion. That is the legal position from the Copyright Office through the federal courts. The third difference is voice. Generated prose has a pattern. Readers can spot it. Reviewers can spot it. Amazon's own detection systems can spot it. The book that was supposed to sound like you ends up sounding like every other coach who used the same prompts. Marcus hadn't thought about any of those three when he hit publish. Think of it like a moat around a castle. Generation builds the castle and skips the moat. Anyone can walk in. Authorship builds both. The castle stays defended. So when you actually want a book that does the job you wanted it to do, make you the recognized authority, make your IP defensible, make your voice findable, which one are you actually building? Here's the simplest way to think about all of this. AI can type the words, it can't make them yours. A book built on words that don't legally belong to you isn't an authority asset, it's a public domain document with your name on the cover. So what happened to Marcus? A few weeks ago, after his book launched, a prospect on a discovery call mentioned something casually. Your book, it sounded a lot like a lot of other books I've been reading lately, same structure, same chapter style. Marcus tried to laugh it off, but the prospect didn't buy. Then his attorney called him with the second piece of news. Under US copyright law, the book wasn't his. He had structured his entire methodology, his named framework, his signature process inside a book that anyone could now legally republish. The IP wasn't protected because under the law, the IP didn't exist in his name. So he came to us. We didn't tell him to throw the manuscript away. We helped him rebuild the book through what's called an extraction process. Structured interviews, framework architecture, voice capture. 90 days, same content, and his voice this time all the way through. His copyright. 3 months after the new edition launched, his discovery call close rate moved from 18% to 42%. Same Marcus, same methodology, same 7 years of work. The asset he thought he'd built the first time, built correctly now the second time. So what actually works in 2026? Here's what I've seen with the coaches who are building books that actually book clients. The book has to be authored, not generated. And authored doesn't mean you typed every word. It means a human extracted what was in your head, structured it, and captured your voice. The asset is yours, legally, stylistically, defensively. And here's the part most coaches get out of sequence. They think the only two options are writing it themselves or letting AI write it. That's backwards. Not wrong, just out of order. The third option has been around for centuries. Walter Isaacson didn't invent Steve Jobs' story, he extracted it. Every CEO memoir on the bestseller list has a writing partner doing the extraction. The model is older than the printing press. AI just made everyone forget it existed. When you build a book this way, you get the speed without losing the asset. The IP stays intact. The voice stays intact. The copyright stays intact. And no disclosure label on Amazon. Question you're probably sitting with right now is, okay, what does that extraction process actually look like? How does someone get a book done in 90 days without writing every word and without handing the whole thing to AI? Because here's what I've learned. The coaches who win in this market aren't the ones who wrote the most words. They're the ones who own the asset that does the selling for them. It's exactly what I walk through in the next video. It covers the 90-day extraction method we use to take what you already know, your point of view, your framework, your methodology, and turn it into a book you actually own. Watch it next. That's the one.